Hello and welcome to Quarter Light, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode, the first generation Vauxhall Astra. Welcome back, and if you're new to Quarter Light, we're a car brochure channel looking at cars from the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. If you think that might be interesting to you as a car brochure enthusiast or even just an enthusiast of cars in general from the past, please consider subscribing. Anyway, today's episode, the Vauxhall Astra. The Vauxhall Astra, now what is it, 8 generations? Although really the first 2 generations were really just right-hand drive versions of the Opel Kadett. Today's episode, the first generation ran from 1980 till 1984 and became a really good seller in the UK. It comfortably went in sort of second place behind the Escort as, you know, the UK's best-selling small family car. Never quite caught up to the Escort, however, though, did it? Although, you know, it was a sales success for sure for Vauxhall. Today's brochure is from 1981, so let's have a look at that now. So here is the brochure itself, showing a few signs of age-related marks. The writing you probably can't quite make out. It says edition number 1, 1981 to 1982, although the publication date is October 1981. Very sort of 80s Astra script and this sort of glowing sort of neon, isn't it? Great little design. You know, 80s hatchbacks in the UK really is what people really wanted, although there is an unusual saloon they did, which we'll have a look at there as well. Vauxhall, of course, didn't have a front-wheel drive car till this time. This was the first front-wheel drive version. Again, that's what people wanted, a front-wheel drive hatchback. So no wonder it really sold well. In fact, my granddad had one of these as his very final car, which replaced his Chevette. Although, you know, he never bought brand new cars. They're all very old cars. When he actually bought them, he actually had one in gold with a sort of nice sort of interior. It might have been the GL, I'm not sure. 3 models at this time, the E, the L and the GL. But anyway, let's open the brochure up and see what we can see. So quite a long brochure when we open this one up because, you know, it's not very high. First showing this GL, so this would have been the top of the range Astra at this time. Very proud large Vauxhall badge on the front, which is interesting. Note only one driver's mirror, no mirror for the passenger. Quite common at this time to only have one mirror on the driver's side. Obviously later on we got mirrors on both sides, which is the common thing, but don't think anything unusual. And people that are familiar with the channel looking at cars from this era are familiar with just seeing that one mirror on there at this time. And you know, it's surprising, isn't it, really? You really think you are losing a lot of vision not having that one, although the design of these Astras at this time, a lot of glass area, so visibility was actually really good. Shown here in sort of a brown colour. We've got a list of the colours at the end of the brochure, so you know, we'll have a look at all the colours that were on offer. On the opposite side, we'll zoom in on these other 2 models. There is this one, the Astra E, so this is your base model, and if you notice, the base model E has actually got round lights on the front instead of those rectangular ones. I'm going to guess this is probably the saloon, and it's weird at this time because the saloon from the side looks pretty much identical to the hatchback. It's only when you look at the rear you can see the differences, and there is a picture of the rear later on. So that's your base model loveliness. No sort of rubbing strips down the side like the L and the GL had. Well, certainly the GL, I think the L had rubbing strips as well, but nothing on the side at all on this base model. But like I say, the unusual thing about these is these sort of very unusual round headlamps, which kind of like look a bit weird, don't they? Because obviously the design is there to have sort of rectangular ones, but you know, at this time they like to really rub it in your nose that you had a base model car, and there you go, you have to put up with these round headlamps. I don't mind them, but you know, we like to know you haven't spent too much money on your car. And then this is an Astra L, and yeah, it looks like it's got rubbing strips down here as well. The Astra L as an estate, it looks like it's got a rather lovely interior on this one, really showing it off. We've also got on this particular one colour coded handles. Do we get that on the... No, we didn't get that on the E, did we? And we'll have a look at all the different specifications in a moment, so it tells you about each one. Very practical car in estate car form. If we notice on this one, it's got a driver's mirror and a passenger mirror. Not sure if that was standard or not, but it's weird at this time. They tended to put a mirror on each side for estate cars. Not talking about Vauxhall, but cars in general. For some reason, they thought, you know, if you had the estate, you definitely needed a passenger door mirror, but if you had the hatchback or saloon, it wasn't necessary, which, you know, you tell me why, the reason behind that, because it doesn't make much sense. The wording here, it says Astra, engineered for space, performance and value. Let's move on. We'll look at the next page. I do like the final little bit of text on here actually, which we'll have a look at just before we'll move on. It says, drive an Astra at the first opportunity. It's the only way to appreciate the refinement, quality and value built into a car that has earned its place among the top 10 bestsellers in the UK. Okay, let's have a look at the range. Actually looking closer at these handles, they're not colour coordinated, they're actually chrome. It's just on the white one you really can't make it out, but they are chrome handles. I think there'll be pictures better later on. And the base model E just had these black handles. So this is a nice page to start on. It says shaping for all-round performance, which is unusual, but it gives you this really good glimpse of the saloon with the boot open. And it's very strange, isn't it, that they went for this design. Vauxhall actually wanted to do sort of a 3-box saloon, and they also wanted to give the Astra a bit of, like, you know, a droop snoot like Vauxhall like to do, but kind of like the money wasn't there, so they just went for the... They just didn't pretty much no change from the Opel Kadett D. I think we can also see on this picture, you know, a bit clearer to see that they are actually chrome handles, or chrome look handles rather than colour coordinated. And we can also see, you know, the fog lamp, bit of an afterthought, but they were at this time anyway. So this isn't going to be the E, even though it's a saloon. It's going to be either the I think it's going to be the L if I had to guess, because we got these sort of rubbing strips, but the wheels look like they are L spec. Also, the little tiny little exhaust on there as well, isn't it? If we move down, we get another look at the Astra E with those round headlamps, black door handles. But if you also notice, I always like these with older cars. You know, the tow hooks are there; they're easily accessible. No problems if you ever get stuck to tow you out. Modern cars, they're just not as practical in that way. All hidden, special tow hooks. These make far more sense to me. I don't know why we don't do that now. But anyway, here is your hatchback. You can see how practical. You can see why that was the seller, really. A very practical vehicle. Huge struts, aren't they, on the hatch there for such a small car. Again, these chrome handles, showing that this is something more than an E, probably the L model. So there is the boot. It says you can have it as a 2 or a 4 door, either the base model E or L. You couldn't get a GL as your saloon at this time. There we have the more practical hatchback. So we've got 3, 5 or a 5 door, L or GL trim. So you couldn't have your base model as a hatchback, so that's an unusual thing as well, isn't it? And the choice, you could actually have a 1600 power plant on that, on the 5 door models only. That's interesting. The 1600 only came on the 5 doors, where I always think the 3 doors look a bit more sporty, but you couldn't have that bigger engine. We will have a look at the engine choices later. And then finally that practical estate. There are all L models, so again unusual. If you wanted this estate, you can only have it as an L. 3 or 5 doors. Always thought 3 doors on an estate was a little bit weird, because it kind of like lose some practicality. Unless you've got small kids, I guess, and you worry about them playing with the doors, I don't know. The 1300S is available on both, and the 1600 engine on the 5 door version. So again, you can only have the 1600 on the 5 door. So they kind of like limited things with the trim, for sure, didn't they? And then the main picture. Now we've learnt that you can only have this as an L. It kind of like makes a bit more sense why they keep showing this estate in L trim. A glimpse of some of the interiors. Obviously this must be a 3 door model or a 2 door model, shall we say, with the switch at the side to fold your seats so you can get into the back there. But a pleasant interior for sure. This page is entitled Space, Comfort, Luxury, dare we say. That's your estate in L, and like I say, a lovely interior. Very orange, isn't it? How unusual is that? An orange, or it certainly looks orange, it's probably more red, but that unusual orange look interior. Showing the seats folded back, just one fold back of the seat. It's not a split fold, a little bit less practical, but a nice low lip. Those unusual orangey red door cards look really something special. Great way to liven up a quite bland white estate car, isn't it? And then we get this lovely interior shot. Look at that. How lovely is that? Looks quite nice. I don't know why. It's not really particularly fancy or anything, but I do like the interior of the Mark 1 Astra for some reason. And you know, early 80s, it probably looked a little bit futuristic, I would imagine. It says choice. So Astra saloons offer the choice of 2 trim equipment levels, with plain tweed cloth on the E and chevron tweed cloth on the L. On hatchbacks you can choose the L trim or the luxury velour on the GL. So this is why you want the GL, for that luxury velour. I've never been a huge leather fan, but I do like a nice velour on a car. The estate comes in L trim only, like we said before. The ideal level for a car that adapts perfectly to its dual role of hard working estate and comfortable family transport. A little bit unusual thing to say, you know, it's ideal, we picked the L. Nothing to do with we don't want to offer too much trim levels. It's just perfect for an estate, obviously. Here we get the base model now, so we're going to look at the trim levels. The Astra E base model here shown as the unusual looking saloon. No, it's not a hatch, like I say, that's a little boot. Throwing the 3 door here. Them unusual seats for this base model, and them unusual door cards, although in a rather lovely shade of yellow. I wish we could still get yellow on base model cars today, I must admit. So it says here, Astra E. Astra 1200S E saloons offer a choice of 2 or 4 doors and all the generous space advantages of Astra hatchbacks. Even with sporty fastback styling, the saloon boot provides 14.4 cubic foot of usable luggage space, Round halogen headlamps are an E styling feature, and the value specifications include a petrol locking cap and black thermoplastic covers for the steel beam bumpers. Ooh. And it goes on to tell us about the attractive hard-wearing plain tweed cloth, which isn't too bad, at least it's not vinyl. Open type front seat head restraints, so we get head restraints as well, which is nice. And front passenger assist handles are amongst the new 482 interior features. So even though it's a base model, it's still got head restraints, which I find a little bit fascinating, because not all cars did, for a cheap car anyway. The peppy 1200S front wheel drive transverse mounted engine delivers 60 horsepower to give the Astra E a lively performance. So it then moves on to look at the other model, which is going to be the L. So let's have a look at that now. So one thing to clear up on this page, because it is a little bit confusing, isn't it really? Because initially I thought this was the E because it's a yellow car, but it's talking about the E having these open type head restraints. These are obviously closed type head restraints, so this must be referring more to this L model. And indeed, if we zoom in on the E, we can see there's open type head restraints for the base model. And indeed, this is the interior proper for the E, with those open type head restraints and this lower spec, more base interior trim colour, more basic door cards. I think whoever designed this brochure kind of messed up, because like I say, it's now showing this as being that sort of bronze colour, rather than the yellow on here, which is the L. So I think someone messed up actually. So then we look at the Astra L. So let's zoom in and have a look at a few of these little images for the L. Like I say, with these rectangular headlamps now, that little rubbing strip, rather nice interior. Looks like that orange interior on this orange looking paintwork. Another little bit of an image in a different colour. Like I say, the names of the colours at the back, so we'll have a look at them at the end. And then a look at the estate model in a different colour than white, which is nice to see. You can also see the nice badge in there. So the L badge at one side and then the engine at the bottom here. Liked to put S on, didn't they? Sounded a little bit sporty. Didn't mean a great deal. And there is the L's interior. Quite basic, this one, isn't it? Little speedo in the centre there, no rev counter. Lots of blanking plates too. And then we go to Astra L. Models introduce extra wide choice. First saloons, they have the 1200S engine and the alternative are 2 or 4 doors. Hatchbacks and States are powered by the advanced 1300S OHC engine on 3 and 5 door variants. If you like a car that can comfortably top 100 miles per hour and give remarkable economy as well, you can specify the powerful new 1600S OHC engine with electronic ignition on 5 door models. It goes on to say, on both 1300S and 1600S engines, GM's automatic 3-speed transmission is optional at extra costs. For 1982, we've also incorporated such worthwhile exterior improvements as body side protective mouldings, whilst inside a trip odometer is now standard. So it looks like them rubbing strips didn't used to be on the L, but they added it for the 1982 model year. It also goes on to say, along with smarter door trim, additional colour keyed adds extra refinement and new design front seat backs give rear passengers even more room than before. So a little bit, sounds like they've cut the front seats out a bit to give that a little bit more knee room. The hatch combines sporty style with seating load versatility. Folding the rear seat creates 36.4 cubic feet of extra load space. With seats raised, a neat removable cover conceals valuable items from view. The Astra L is practical. It shows in the square-shaped rear section up to 63.2 cubic feet of space, flat floor, low loading height of 22 inches and tailgate wash wipe to make it the ideal dual purpose car. And then we get the top of the range at this time, the Astra GL. Particularly like the GL for the seats. I must admit those velour seats do look nice. We've also got the door cards going all the way to the window, not showing any of the body colour there for a little bit more refinement, I guess. But the seats themselves are the star, I think, of the GL. He is shown as hatchback because if you remember, you couldn't get the GL as a saloon. Little bit of a horsey scene as well, isn't it, to show, you must have a little bit more money. If you got the GL, you can afford a horse as well, which is nice. This one not showing those nice door cards on the GL with those sort of little bit of a space to put extra bits and bobs. Interior wise, all those little, well, I'm going to say all, but some of those little blanking plates have been removed. One of the blanking plates was actually for a clock, which is weird when you get the clock. Oops, as I just knocked the camera. One of those blanking plates was for the clock, which is unusual. No rev counter still though. Again, a little bit unusual, but overall, I do quite like the interior of this car. And then we get a front view in this sort of like metallic bronze colour. Let's see what it's got to say for itself. So it says, the GL hatch is unmistakably the top Astra in the range. Rich velour upholstery is matched by velour carpeting, which extends to the load compartments. Luxury touches include continental style front door armrests and carpeting on the lower door section to obviate scuffing. Behind the soft feel 4-spoke steering wheel, the comprehensive fascia incorporates a push-button radio, illuminated glove box, quartz clock, among the many special GL features. For extra convenience, the driver's door mirror is adjustable from the inside of the car, and the interior rear view mirror is the dipping style. Although we're not going to give you a passenger door mirror, that would be just crazy. Styled steel wheels complete the GL's hatch sporty appearance, matched on the road by the easy power of the free-revving 1300S OHC engine. The Astra has always been acknowledged as great fun to drive, with road holding at the top of its class. When powered by the highly potent all-new 1600S OHC engine, Astra performance is exhilarating to say the least, yet always maintaining levels of economy for which this Vauxhall is noted. This next page is showing this unusual cutaway shot of a GL model featuring a sunroof and even alloy wheels, which is telling us these sports alloy road wheels are optional at extra cost, although not particularly nice in my view. And then we get the second half of the page, which is showing engineering refinements, various little images, things like the engine, looking very simplistic, and that suspension setup. Another look at the engine there, and inside the engine and that suspension. And then we get the specifications, which are quite simplistic actually, but we'll zoom in on the specifications. So there's a specification for the engines of 1200, 1300, 1600, and the exact CC, etc, etc. You can pause that screen if you want to look at that in any great detail. The transmission. So the gearbox this time was just a 4-speed unit with that optional 3-speed auto. Look at the suspension setup and the brakes. So front discs, rear drums, steering information, wheels and tyres information. Like I said, pause the screen if you do want to read it in great detail. The electrics and the fuel capacities and the boot capacity. And really there isn't that much more on there, which is a little bit strange. We go now to the colours and trims. So here it gives you an idea of all the colours that are actually available for the Astras at the time. So polar white, smoke blue, sapphire blue metallic, reed silver, silver green metallic, that Jamaica yellow which was on that base model, antique gold metallic, which I think was on my granddad's hatchback Astra, I think possibly a GL, I'm not sure. Gazelle beige, hazel brown metallic, a little bit of a throwback to the 70s there. Henna red, and it just says metallic paint optional at extra cost. The henna red with a red interior would have been quite something, as would be the smoke blue or the sapphire blue with a blue interior. So they're the brave choices, and if you got the white you always got that red interior colour which looks a little bit orangey, didn't it, on the pictures. I look at the cargo space dimensions and the weights. And then the complete list of interior features on that base model Astra E, which kind of looks like it's just a little bit more equipment than we got on the base model Escort. Not even an L, what I usually call the popular, but you know, not even the L. That was really stripped down. This doesn't seem to be quite as stripped down. Then we get the Astra L. Well, they're all the bits extra on top of your base model. Hatchbacks get a low deck mat, hinged rear door cover and fold down rear seats. Estates get a tailgate wash wipe. Unfortunately no tailgate wash wipe on the other models, which is a little bit mean, but I guess we are still only the early 80s. And there's the equipment for the Astra GL, so that's what you get extra on top of the L. Or indeed you do get tailgate wash wipe on this GL model, which is nice. Underbody lamp, that's nice. Under bonnet lamp, I should say. That's nice to lift your bonnet up and get a light under there, isn't it? Then you get your options for each individual model. Looks like you got rear seat belts you could have on all the models, and then other bits and pieces. So you could have that tailgate wash wipe on your L if you spec'd it that way. Alloy wheels were possible, etc, etc. And then your fuel consumption figures. And the nice thing really about the Astra, because it was that nice sort of quite a slippery shape for its time, you know, the fuel consumption figures weren't bad. Even if you got the 1600, they weren't too bad at all. And then at the end we've just got various information about hire and Vauxhall rental, etc, etc. We turn the page to the very back page now, and we get little images of the factories and, you know, the vehicle itself being built. This is where your Vauxhall dealer badge would be, and then your publication number V2547. It's published October 1981. So there we go. the first generation Vauxhall Astra, probably my favourite Vauxhall Astra as it happens, although the sort of second generation was a nice sort of slippery shape and I quite like that one as well. If you've got any memories of these first generation Vauxhall Astras, please jot them in the comments. Always interesting to hear. But for now, we'll say thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't done already, and we'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.